Check one.
Testes. Sibilance.
Testes.
Sibilance.
Testes.
Testicles hanging from my lips. All right.
Testicles hanging from your lips?
Okay, well, yeah, if the cock is in my mouth, then the balls are hanging from my lips.
Well, it's like, what do you call nuts on nuts on a chest? Chestnuts. What do you call nuts on a wall? Walnuts. What do you call nuts on a chin? Dick in your mouth.
That's a good one. Hello and welcome to It's Kind of a Funny Podcast presents What Do You Believe? Ooh. Yeah, cue the
spooky music.
Cue the weird music. So yeah, Shawn and I have always said that we'll get to some other things first, but our show today is going to be about JFK assassination and MK Ultra.
MK Ultra. So conspiracy theories, and then I walk into the podcast studio, and Phillip has a loaded gun on the table right in front of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I started talking about, Shawn, you know the world is a dark place. I think you should take yourself out.
Yeah. So, I'd like to start the show off today.
Yeah. Well, let me explain first.
No.
You're okay.
Let me go.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
On the last show, I made some jokes at another one of the podcast hosts' expense, and I just want to say I'm sorry. I'm in a program of recovery, and that's not the way I need to live my life. Looking farther into it, it honestly probably stems from jealousy. Chip is, he's actively doing stuff on Twitch and Mixer, stuff like that, which is it's very difficult to do. You have to be, committed to being able to do it, to get followers. And from what what Phillip was saying is that he has, some people that are following him and stuff like that. That's awesome. I've talked about doing that. I was always like, oh, when Destiny 2 comes out, that's where I'm going to get my start. And then it's like, oh, no, I'm not going to. Because it's difficult. It's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
So he's doing something that I have shown interest in doing. And so it's one of those things where it's like, oh, well, I'm going to, poke holes in it and stuff like that. I make fun of anyone's expense. I don't.
Yeah, me too.
And that's what I want him to know is it's not anything directed at him. I don't have any ill feeling toward him. I wasn't doing anything like that. Like I said, if it's anything, I was doing it because it's like, hell, he's doing something that I would like to do. I'd like to get that attention and have, followers, even if you're not making any money on it. That's where you have to start. You have to be consistent, just like we had talked about. I'd like to find out what that other guy at my work is doing to see if he's even attempted it and stuff like that. And even now, like the people that I would normally watch on YouTube and Twitch and stuff like that are having to go to different games because, there's a lull in Destiny and different things like that. So to be able to stay on and do things like that is, it takes a lot. So I just, I wanted to apologize to Chip that if I did or say anything that hurt his feelings, I apologize. It wasn't directed at you. I was using you as the vehicle for doing. I was using you as the vehicle for doing the jokes. But if anything, I tip my hat to you for doing what you do and sticking it through and continuing to do it. I think that's great.
Yeah,
sorry, Chip.
Well, thank you. I thank you for him, and I'm sure we'll maybe get an email from him. Yes, nobody, maybe only some people got to hear it, but I pulled it because he got upset and wanted it pulled and felt that we were attacking him personally.
Yeah.
And I told him that we were not. We were just having fun. But
you can't change the way somebody. Yeah, you can't change the way somebody feels, and if that's the way he felt about it, and that's like I said, that's what I wanted to clear the air about.
Exactly, and that's where So and like I said, yeah, he would do 5 hours straight of playing, and all that.
Yeah, that's nuts.
And,
that takes a lot.
Yeah, and keep the energy up.
Yeah, and still being able to work his job and everything like that.
But yes, we apologize.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about.
Now
we're getting into.
I'm gonna offend JFK's
it's kind of a
family.
funny story.
Right.
It's kind of a funny podcast presents.
Yes. JFK.
What do you believe?
What do you believe?
And I'd like to go first.
Oh,
if you
good.
don't mind.
Okay, that'll be good.
Yeah, I'd like to go first.
Let me put on my glasses so I look smart. All right, go ahead.
Nope.
No, it don't help.
Now
you're
made you
offending
look
me.
very cross-eyed or something. That was like, what the hell?
You have to apologize to me on the next show.
So I'm not apologizing to you.
Okay.
Fucking pussy.
Wow.
So I did some research on MK Ultra.
Mm-hmm.
MK Ultra, it all seemed to stem from World War II.
Mm-hmm.
During the was showing that during the joint intelligence objectives agency during the Nuremberg trials of the Nazi scientists, it was a precursor thing to MK Ultra. MK Ultra, ultimately, in a nutshell, was a CIA operation for mind control. They wanted to do testing to be able to have mind control. Apparently, there was some footage of things like after World War II where soldiers of war were, denouncing their country, giving up secrets, all this kind of stuff, things that trained soldiers normally wouldn't do. Also, there was something of a court hearing where a high up official from another country seemed very out of it, but was admitting to all these things that normally a leader wouldn't do. And the CIA assumed that there was some sort of mind control or something going on. Then the precursor, it says here, was Operation Paperclip. The program recruited former Nazi scientists, some of whom had been identified and prosecuted as war criminals during the Nuremberg trials. So these are, Nazi scientists that were committing war crimes during World War II, and our government sees fit to be like, hey, you know what? They're probably onto something. Let's see what we can do.
It's like we said, like we said on previous shows, where they got with those Nazi scientists, and were like, wait, we could use you.
Right.
How about we forget about everything you've done?
Well, and apparently during Operation Paperclip, they created all new identities for these people.
Wow.
They created all new identities, Social Security, they recreated these people so that they couldn't be tied to, being Nazi scientists and stuff like that, so that it wouldn't come back on them.
Yeah.
Well, that ultimately came into during the years of the early 50s is when it first started. And then it was officially sanctioned in 1953, was reduced in scope in 1964, further reduced in 1967, and officially halted in 1973. There's some things that I was reading that was saying that it's still going on in different aspects of it. One of the things that they talked about was one of the beginning stages of MK Ultra was a program to where they would raise people, super smart people, like in psychologists, to then infiltrate the media so that they could control the media from the inside. So they took these 40 children, raised them in, 10 here, 10 here, 10 here, whatever, but in totally sanctioned off areas so they could control their curriculum, make sure that they were super smart and everything. And then as they would get older, they would get them placed into, at the time it was about radio and newspaper.
Yeah.
Because that's what was control, they could control the flow and understand psychology. They would be, super smart experts, doctors in psychology, to be able to manipulate the messages going out. So it would still be like a state-controlled media. The person who is apparently in charge of MK Ultra now, I don't have her name because I don't have the paperwork with me.
It's
but
still going?
She was one of the first children born into this and is now overseeing MK Ultra, the whatever version of MK Ultra is now. Ultimately, what they say MK Ultra is doing now is manipulating and controlling the media. Wow. And it's funny, you look at the stuff going on in the media now.
Yeah.
Like, look at all the sexual harassment stuff coming out. you look at it with those conspiracy goggles on, and you're like, wait a second. Okay, this started with Bill Cosby, when it started coming to the mainstream. But it's like if you have somebody that's controlling those messages that are going out, you could look at who they're getting rid of. Are they getting rid of particular people in the government that they can do this? One of the things of MK Ultra with their mind control, they were using drugs, LSD, and this was like government LSD, and this was 6 or 7 years before LSD ever hit the street.
Yeah, they said they went to Mexico and found like the mushrooms and was like, the guys were like, these are the ones, and then the scientists were like, okay.
They broke it down and created it and everything.
But the real quick before you go past it, the thing with the kids though, the Nazis did that
exactly.
Having the little...
And that's the thing. I'm sure they got the idea from Operation Paperclip, where they're like, no, you take these children, you know what you're getting with these kids, and you develop them, and
Nietzscheify them and make them the best of the best,
And then, that's all they know, and you indoctrinate them into that lifestyle, and then you control them and put them out there into the world. Like I said, if you really think about the ramifications or the implications of that, where it's like, wow, they could be somebody being like, okay, so one of the things that they did is there is rumored to be 176 sub-projects under MK Ultra.
Wow. Yeah.
These were all things like Operation Midnight Climax, where they were taking prostitutes. They would hire prostitutes.
It's hot. Wait, talk slowly.
They would hire prostitutes, and they would
climax.
They'd take them into these special
11:59 climax
special brothels that were set up by the CIA. Ooh,
sexy.
And one-way mirrors that the CIA could watch.
Like that Chinese place we went to.
Yeah.
That's right.
There's a Chinese place here in town that is controlled by the triads, and they just sit there and watch all the people eat and everything like that.
There's a big mirror on the one wall.
It's gambling in the background, geisha girls, all that kind of stuff. But with this, then apparently 10 years ago, 15 years ago, a house was renovated. In the house, they were finding these two-way mirrors. They found in all the light sockets and all the electrical outlets and stuff that there was recording devices and stuff like that. They found this during those. So they didn't even do a good job of cleaning the house out.
Yeah.
This was one of the things that they were also able to tie back to MK Ultra. This is one of like those brothels that they used. They would pay the girls to dose the guys with drugs. LSD. They didn't know, and they would watch what they would do and see if they could manipulate the people. And part of the things that they would do would be to do this so that they could have information on people that would be able to discredit them. So senators, congressmen,
pretty
whatever,
put them
into a compromising position.
Yeah.
And then you have this dirt on them, and then you can control them to do whatever. Now, all of a sudden, it's like, okay, hey, this stuff is coming out about this. They're like, oh, well, let's get rid of, it's one of those things where if you start going down that rabbit hole of conspiracy, what could it really be?
Well, and on the part that I heard about, I watched the way Shawn and I wanted to do the show was him do the MK Ultra stuff and me do the JFK thing. But then part of me really wanted to get into the MK Ultra, so I watched a little ABC thing from the late '70s. And
but see, now that's what ABC wants you to see.
Exactly. Part of it was about how when they got with these hookers, it wasn't only giving them the drugs or whatever to make them do whatever. They picked the lowest of the low people who they said would have done LSD anyway, so we'll just help them along.
Right. Well, and they did it with heroin. They used heroin addicts and made them test different drugs, different things of LSD and stuff like that with the promise of heroin.
And they said, we don't feel bad about it. Like they would have done it anyway, like whatever. But they said what they got out of not only probably before they gave them the drugs was talking to these hookers about, guys just open up after sex, like for some reason. And they're like, really? So then they kind of worked that into their whole plan and everything. So, it's
and then
insane.
Just the different stories, too, that it talked about, like, some of the experiments they talked about, like you needed to desensitize, or you needed to pretty much kind of wipe their memory, and start over with a clean slate on the account. So the McGill Daily kind of thing here or whatever. So the ultraviolet journalist, Cameron experiments. What they would do is you would have to ultimately like blank out their memory. And in order to do that, they would use the doctor who was in charge of it would say that he needed to start with the blank slate. The way that they would achieve that is by you had to be asleep for about 10 days. So they would medically and chemically, so drugs and whatever, induce comas into people. There's stories about people that would go in for minor things into research hospitals. Like they'd be like, oh, I'm depressed. Like one of the true stories was this lady went in for just mild depression. And they like put her to sleep for weeks on end, where they just completely knocked her out. And then when she comes to, you are just so disoriented. She would leave and, tell her kids and her family, I don't want to be there. It seems weird what they're doing. And they'd be like, no, you have to go back. We want you to get better. So she went back. So many people committed suicide. People that later on, came out and filed lawsuits against them. Some of the people, one of the doctors that was actually in the program that was doing experiments in the program, they laced him with LSD, and he had already had depression. He jumped out of the 30-story floor of a hotel. Dr. Osborne, I think it was.
That's what that movie, the show that,
Right, yeah. And they said a lot of the stuff from Stranger Things or whatever that show, Stranger Things, were pulled from the files of MK Ultra. Later on, part of the stuff that Osborne's research did was developing the torture techniques that the CIA uses to this day. They said that they exhumed his body, that the family requested that his body be exhumed, and they tried to sue, for this. And they're like, no, you can't do that because he worked for the CIA, so he gives up all of his rights, blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, they did settle out of court with them for the maximum amount that was determined by Congress that they could pay out, which at the time was like $400 and some thousand.
Wow.
So they did settle with them. But when they exhumed the body and looked at it, there was some trauma to a certain area, which they said that if you look on the textbooks of how they do a certain torture technique, it's like by the book exactly what it says would happen.
Wow.
In the thing, and it's just like, holy crap! Like it's like this is our government that is capable and more than willing to do all of this.
And that's what else I was finding out that was interesting was. We'll get into when I do the JFK thing, but was that in the 50s, like America, like Trump says, make America great again, like 50s through the 60s, I think our innocence was lost when Kennedy was shot and then Oswald was shot on national television. Like, then that was I don't think our innocence was necessarily lost. I think total, coming out but
of...
you know what I mean? Seeing that on TV, then everybody was like, before when they could watch Make Room for Daddy or
but
whatever.
That wasn't, what year was that in?
That was when he got assassinated, 63.
Okay. What year did World War II end? 49?
Yeah, 49.
That's...
45. Sorry,
45, okay. So granted, it's 15 years. That's a considerable amount of time.
Yeah, true. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But, there is things, major things, and it had to be Vietnam. There's still...
and they saw Auschwitz on TV.
Right, exactly. So, it's... The violence of that kind of stuff is just... I hate to say it, that was, the time that we were in, but it was a very violent time. Look at how long has it been since there's been any major wars going on. We don't see any of this stuff in the States.
Same one that's been going for,
and you could say, oh, well, that's because of MK Ultra. That's because we're controlling this kind of stuff. Who knows what
And, what I was trying to say, and I can't put it into words very well, but was it's the thing of the government, like the way where before it was the government would never do that. Then Snowden, like Snowden, and like I said, like that ABC show to even be on TV that I'm watching on YouTube.
Right.
I was like, that came out to everybody. Like, weren't they afraid? Like, wasn't the government trying to stop that? Because they were like, we just found this guy's diaries that said that here's all these LSD things that they were doing, all these tests.
There is one of the agents that was...
But also, real quick, because I was thinking of this, was also just like you and I said, with the conspiracy, you could full on be like, well, that's because they don't want you to know. Same thing with these people. They pick the lowest of the low, because then when they say the government's controlling my mind or giving me LSD, then you're going to go, yeah, right, this hooker, I'm going to believe her. And same thing with the aliens. Like, if, why is it all trailer park people? Well, because maybe that's what
they're the easiest ones to discredit.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I still don't believe aliens. I don't think that the aliens... I think it's us doing experiments. You know, I still think that they're definitely trying to be like, I think at this point with technology, we've come up with every chemical that we can, until some other breakthrough kind of science comes out. But there's probably so many things that have already gone on, or that, that could happen with the science behind that the governments have, that everyday people doesn't have. The internet, the governments had internet far earlier than we did.
And the thing like on the Snowden movie where he's like, oh yeah, we can watch anybody's computer and we can do that. And the guy's like, is that legal? And he's like, oh, it's a gray area.
Right.
And then
you can
Snowden's
make
like,
you're the government. You can say what's legal
or
or what's not legal. And anymore, I think with the Patriot stuff, where it's just like, if it's for American security, we'll do whatever the hell we want. And to a degree, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
If it means I'm not hiding anything. If you want to, but then again, humans are fucked up, disgusting creatures.
Yeah.
And somebody out there is fucking like, okay, so this leads into one of the agents in the MK Ultra experiments wrote to the director of the CIA that was in charge of the program and was like, hey, was pretty much just like, hey, this is a great thing that's going on here, and I'm partaking. Like, he was admitting to virtually like, getting joy out of fucking with these people, out of dosing innocent people with LSD and then watching what they were doing and then talking about he was partaking in the LSD and the hookers and all of this stuff himself. And it was just like, this is, of course, like something about, a kid in a candy store. And of course, I'm partaking in it too. And this and that. The guy the author of the book of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was one of the people who they experimented on.
Wow.
Because he was a protege, or he was a friend of a politician who was going to be part of the experiments, and they got sick and couldn't do it. So this guy stepped in. His friend tried to tell him, like, this is a CIA program. He's like, no, it's not. This is a program set up by this university because they're trying to help mentally ill people. He's like, no, this was them trying to make people mentally ill to be able to discredit them. He was talking about how he was one of the very first people to try LSD. And then I think it was the same guy who was, a co-writer person with the Grateful Dead, where he would help them write the Grateful Dead songs and stuff like that. He says that he had tried LSD like 7 years before Jerry Garcia had ever done it. And his first time when Jerry Garcia had tried LSD, he's like, oh, okay, now go back and listen to this song that was on this album, and it'll all make sense. And then, Jerry Garcia's all like, and they're just like, he knew about it because he knew what LSD was before anybody else did. That's how he wrote these songs. That's how he did this stuff. And he was... The fucking guy, let me get his name on here. Go ahead and talk about something.
Part of me, I'm not going to lie, but I kind of want to drop acid or do LSD just to see what it is. But part of me then is afraid I'll just, like my dad told me once, he dropped acid and he said he went over to this girl who he really liked that was sitting on the couch with him. He said, I dropped some acid. I'm wanting to talk to her. And he said, all I ended up doing was staring at the red light on the stereo for 8 hours. he said, I said, like, my whole thing was, I'm going to talk to this girl. And he sat down, and all of a sudden it kicked in, and he was just like watching the red light. I'm afraid that's what will happen to me. I'll be like, I want to see some shit. And I'll just be like,
I did mushrooms the one time, and I had this weird shower curtain, and it was fucking weird. And we had like the bumpy ceilings,
Yeah.
like you have in here. And there was like fucking hut people. Like I couldn't see them, but there's like people fucking moving around inside of them. But I knew they were people. Like I wasn't worried that they were insects. And I don't like hallucinogenics. I was not a hallucinogenic person. So when I did that, plus apparently dumbass me, and let's just take it to the extreme.
Yeah.
I went ahead and ate fucking 2 tabs of ecstasy before I even fucking ate the mushrooms. And then the people that were like, because we ate too many, and the people were like, "Oh, well, you're fucking candy flipping, so you're way more fucked than we are." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Wow.
And I went and laid down and fell asleep. They're like, "How did you fall asleep?" I'm like, it was just like too much for me, apparently.
That's interesting that word, and I'm sure everybody else out there who's done mushrooms will be like, hut people, I know, because years ago, Rachel she was like in high school or a senior in high school, and her friend had done mushrooms. And all of a sudden, I come over there one day, and it had been like the day before or whatever. And she was like, "Oh my God! Like we were doing the mushrooms, and we saw these hut people on the ceiling, and they were just in their little tents and like did it." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, there were all these." And I was like, "Wow!" And then when you said hut people, I was like, "Oh my God, that's totally what she said."
Yeah, it was.
So
that's funny as hell.
And then back to the security issues. Yeah, when you go, but this is for national security, then people go, say 70% of the people are going to go, okay. Or like Danielle and I say, well, we got nothing to hide, so go ahead.
Right. But then that, and that's fine for the majority of people.
A slippery slope.
But then, who's using that information? What are they doing with it? You have some fucking weird power trip kind of person. Here's this thing. So, Ken Kesey, author of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and a source of inspiration of the countercultural movement, was first exposed to LSD and other psychological drugs as part of the MK Ultra project. While still a graduate student at Stanford, he became involved in the study almost by accident. A neighbor of Kesey's, a psychologist, signed up for the project and had to back out at the last minute. An outstanding athlete and a straight-laced individual up to that point, he had never done any sort of drugs and never even tasted alcohol. At the time of the experiment, he was training for the 1960 Olympics, to which he had earned a place. Despite Allen Ginsberg's insistence, Casey did not believe that the project was sponsored by the CIA, and not until decades later. God damn, I hate the internet. Anyway, not until decades later did he find out, but like I said, he went on to talk about all the information. I think he was the same person. It was the same person with the Grateful Dead. Whitey Bulger was another one. He was the gangster.
Bulger, yeah.
Whitey Bulger was a gangster,
and like you said,
and he said that he was afraid of going to anybody and telling them what he was doing, because he was in prison, and to get a lighter sentence, he was doing these experiments. Yeah. Later on, he came out to say, he's like, I committed a lot of crimes, and I face up to those. He's like, but what they did to me was a worse crime than I had ever committed on anybody. Because he's like, the depression, everything that he went through of the stuff that they made him do because of the drugs and the manipulation. Robert Hunter was the person. Robert Hunter, a lyricist and longtime collaborator with the Grateful Dead. I couldn't figure out why they were paying me to take these psychedelics.
Well, and that's where they said also in that thing that I watched was that, it would go to institutions, like colleges, universities, and like you said, prisons and stuff. Excuse me. And that's where they did all their experiments on, because you can pay, tell a student, hey, we'll pay your rent, and they're like, okay, I'll do it.
So through the CIA testing, Hunter was the first of his social circle to try LSDs by a few years. So when Garcia took LSD for the first time, it was Hunter who advised him, go home and put on a Ravi Shankar record, just listen to the music. So, it's
Yeah,
like he had helped him write that, and it was, he knew what it was, so it was like something that would play to them later on. This Harold Bluler guy was a professional tennis player, was dead just over a month later. He checked into a psychiatric institute where he was diagnosed with pseudo-neurotic schizophrenia. That was the one where they were testing the mushrooms on people, or they were trying mescaline. They were testing mescaline, and they fucked up whatever they were doing. They fucking injected him with it, and it killed him.
Wow.
And it came out that his family sued him later on and stuff like that because he checked into a psychiatric hospital for whatever. And then they were testing mescaline on him.
Man,
they said that the doctors were injecting people. For the most part, they were saying that they had no idea if they were injecting them with cleaning fluid, what they were injecting into these people. They were just doing
a
it.
Whole Mengele type
and
thing,
none of them knew even that it was CIA. It was through all of these other sub experiments, these sub programs that would then open up a business and be like, we want to know the effects of blah 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 and blah 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 and blah blah blah, and we'll pay you millions and millions of dollars to be able to do it. And so they'd be like, well, fuck yeah.
Well, and the same thing also where they were asking one of the guys, like I said, where they go, don't you feel bad about this? And he was like, they were like that it would mess up people, but they were only looking at it. This is how I saw it. They're looking at the future of, this can help us defeat our enemy of Russia or whoever, and they're not thinking about what's
but they were
to these
doing
people.
This to innocent people.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not they don't even care. They're just
stories of innocent people, and it's not like the heroin addicts are like, they would do this anyway.
Yeah, it's college students,
right? Whatever. No, these are
depressed people who need help.
And like the college students and stuff, where it straight up fucking ruined their lives.
Yeah.
And they said there's reports of where they're admitting that they're like, yeah, we know that this is going to completely fuck up somebody's life, but we're doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And to me, that all comes from those Nazi experiments. They're just like, whatever for the greater good.
Yeah.
And to an extent, do you honestly believe that? For the greater...
No,
I don't know.
I think part of it was like, wow, we could maybe open the mind or do something, or mind control for, we could get into the Russians.
So like the mind control, more down the conspiracy thing.
Okay.
The Las Vegas shooting.
Yeah.
Hasn't been anything on the news about it anymore.
Yeah.
No reason why the guy did it.
Yeah. Yeah, just
there's
forgotten.
There's nothing about it. It's not in the news anymore.
Yeah.
But it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, was that a government thing to do whatever? Now, today there was a bombing in Times Square.
Yeah.
A 27-year-old guy in ISIS and this and that and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just so much of it anymore that you're like, what is really,
it's where, as you started talking about MK Ultra when we started the show, so before Shawn and I doing the shows, we would always kind of just bullshit and talk about whatever. And now listening to this last podcast on the left and stuff, we've said, well, that's what we're into, so let's talk about all that kind of stuff. So then we picked JFK and MK Ultra. So when you started talking, I'm thinking, Shawn and me, Shawn and I are going to go down this rabbit hole, and we're going to be like Henry Zabrowski, where we're going to be like, no, the government's bad. Podcast only gets this much views. You know why?
Right.
Because
we've only got this many views before. If our views spike because of this.
then go back down, then we're like, wait. And there's a government guy at the door with Men in Black with his little pen to make me forget. Where I don't have to sleep for 10 days. He just...
Could you imagine that? Just think, like, I was... Like, again, I have more going on in my life than to worry about what our government's doing, and I'm not going to change it anyway. I'm 43 years old, and I'm not going to make any changes.
Yeah.
But, you think about the implications of what these things are that they can and have and will continue to do to people. And it's like the manipulation of whatever. There was just the thing. Did you see the shooting in Mesa of the 27-year-old in Mesa?
Oh, yeah, where, the cops.
Yeah. And, oh, my God, on the radio today, the guy in the morning was just like, I don't care if they fire me. If I was his family, I'd be paying a visit to this cop, and he should have gotten off. And it's honestly bullshit because the cop tells him...
Yeah. show your hands,
at
show your
least
hands.
5 different things.
Yeah.
Where he's like, put your hands up, put them all the way up. If you fall, you better fall in your face.
Yeah.
Crawl to me.
Yeah.
You know, all these different things that all contradicted themselves. Plus, he's like, at no point, like the guy was crying. He was so scared.
Yeah.
And at no point were those cops in any danger. And I understand they called them there because they said he was waving a gun around.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. You have him in a position to where he's not going to be able to do anything. And to me, like you said, that guy was looking for a reason to shoot him. Well, he told him so many things that would contradict each other that no matter what he would do, he would be able to shoot him and get away with it.
Well, and on the other end of it, now let me be the defense. Or no, let me be the prosecutor. You're the defense. The guy had a gun that said "fuck everyone" or whatever. The cop.
Oh, okay.
Seriously?
Like
there's a picture of him with his M16, and it says like "fuck everyone" or whatever. And it's like, if you didn't have that, like if that picture would have never came out, it said "fuck you all" or "I'll kill them all" or something.
Right.
If you didn't have that, then maybe things would be more police against citizen with a gun.
No, that's the way I'm looking at it.
But,
this fucking
cop
I got away with fucking murder.
No, I get you, but I'm saying the biggest thing is he wanted to kill people because it's
even looking at the guy, I'm like, can you get any more fucking tactical?
Yeah.
I'm like, you've got a fucking hard on to try to shoot somebody,
and
now
when you see him normal,
and now
he's
what I don't understand. Yeah, and they dressed him up and fucking put him into fucking readers or whatever in the fucking courtroom to make him look like they covered up all of his fucking tattoos because he was fucking Mr. fucking.
But I'm saying he's a wannabe, not a kind of a wannabe, more of I got to show myself because I'm a small guy,
right? And that's what they're saying. Like they're like he got fucking picked on, he got beat up and bullied as a fucking kid, and now he's fucking getting back at everybody.
Yeah,
and being like, and what's the deal? They said that Mesa Police Department fired him, but they said that was like common practice. Like what? When a cop shoots an unarmed person, that's common practice.
And then
now he's suing to get his job back because he wants to shoot somebody again.
Yeah, well, and then just like with the police,
but why do you fire somebody? Normally, you put them on administrative leave if there's a shooting. Why? Anytime a cop shoots somebody, Mesa fires them.
Yeah.
There's got to be more to that. Why did Mesa PD fire him?
Well, right, but it's also the thing of they fire him thinking everything will be forgotten, but then that guy can go to California and get a job.
Right.
They'll know him, but that's same thing that happens with the priest, happens with the cops. That I can't go here, I'm going to go somewhere else. So then they go somewhere else, and it's like but they just go and continue their bad behavior somewhere else. But it's the same thing with working with these security guards. That, like I said, guy that went through the window, the guy that went through the window that thinks that he's
with
macho,
another fucking
tough
security company now. I'm sure.
And like I've told you, where I kept asking him, I don't have a gun on this job, so how should I hold the flashlight when I go in? Oh, you need to put your hand on the guy's back, and you go in like this. And I said, no, I don't have a gun. I just don't want to blind the guy that's clearing the room when I'm behind him with my flashlight. Well, what you need to do is you go in too with your... No, I don't have a gun. Just show me.
Well, why don't you have a gun? I can't help you if you don't have a gun.
He goes, I'm going to send you some LA SWAT videos and some Ranger videos. And I'm like... I just need finally one of the guys goes
learn this shit. Like it's one thing. Like I looked up how to install a program on my computer and how to get it to run on Sandy's new laptop.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you could look up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Not how to clear a fucking room.
Yeah.
Get professional fucking training. Pay somebody. Don't just look it up on fucking YouTube.
Exactly. And then that makes him think that he knows everything.
I'm going to start experimenting on people. I watched some MK Ultra videos.
Some research. All right.
I need you to stop recording right now.
Exactly. I know, right?
You and Danielle are going to become my
right.
slaves.
Oh, is there something in this shirt that you gave me? Am I going to start smelling this? Because I smell something, and all of a sudden I want to kill.
I want to kill.
That's right. But what was I getting? Oh, so then finally the one guy says, just hold your flashlight way up high. That's how the FBI does it. Then if somebody does see you with a flashlight, want to shoot, they think you're taller than you are. Maybe they shoot at the light, or you hold it out to your side.
Or they want to shoot you in the chest and they shoot you right in the face.
Or that too. Yeah, that's true. I never thought of that. Wait a minute.
Like, how the fuck is that guy that tall? Like, wait a second. Okay, so if he's holding it there, that means If he's holding it at his waist, he's like
Yeah.
15. It's a lizard person.
Maybe they'll just give up.
Maybe they'll just give up. Yeah.
You said lizard person, which made me go on to something else real quick. I don't know if I told you, but I have this case that says it's made by Thule from Switzerland or wherever they're from. But now that's also Thule Society is what the Nazis were doing back, with the aliens, back with Hitler and stuff. So one day I'm at work and the co-owner of our company goes, "Oh, a Thule. I like your Thule thing." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks." And then I'm thinking, and then after I go, "Yeah, it's like waterproof. It's pretty cool." And then as I'm leaving, I go, "Wait a minute. Shawn and I listened to the last podcast on the left, and they said Thule Society." I go, "Is this guy like so into the Nazis?" Because, he used to have a swastika on his phone, but yeah. He had like a picture on his phone, but
yeah, it was
like a screensaver.
I like the screensaver,
which
I didn't know that it had a swastika on it.
Because we'd go to a meeting and he'd be like, he'd have his phone to ring, and
this is one of the bosses or just one of the stupid guards?
Maybe one of the owners.
Maybe one of the owners.
The co-owner, like whatever.
On your current company?
And maybe not.
And no, on the previous company.
Right.
Yeah, it was a previous company.
But yeah, so he, I was like, why do you have the swastika on your? Oh yeah, my stepson put that on there, and I don't know how to get it off. Well, then you ask somebody. Nah, I'll do it later.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll
do it later. It's like whatever, racist. So
I can't take it off there until I go to my meeting tonight.
So are you?
Oh yeah.
So MK Ultra.
Update,
so what do you?
1,004 days.
Sweet. Let me write that down on here. 1,004 days.
Wow, I didn't even
recording
realize
this on Monday.
1,000.
That's awesome. Okay. So what do you believe with the MK Ultra? I mean,
I believe it 100%.
Yeah,
I know that we did it, and I believe that they're still
and
doing.
You're saying they're still.
It may not be MK Ultra, but because they said for one that MK Ultra was a failure. It was definitely a failure. They cannot control. They cannot, control somebody. They can't break them and do that kind of stuff. But there's definitely brainwashing. There's definitely techniques. The military does it constantly. They break you down and then build you up.
Well, and something that I saw,
any cults, different religious cults, anything like that. They talk about in the different reform societies, the different reform schools, the boys' schools, stuff like that we hear about. And you see this about. They would break people down and then try to rebuild them up again. But humans are a fucked up thing, and we do horrific things to people. And granted, I don't think we in general society hear about it as much, but I guarantee this stuff still happens. There's still the torture and stuff like that. If you do that under the guise of national security, I know back in the day when I wanted to be Mr. FBI, Mr. Navy SEAL, CIA spook, spy, I would have fucking tortured the shit out of people.
Yeah, exactly. I had a whole script idea that was you would play it to Seasons of the Sun, and it'd be Shawn and I hanging out as teens. We had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun. And this is a trailer, right? Us playing in the field, us going to movies, and then all of a sudden Shawn goes off, and I'm like, oh, I think Shawn become a drug dealer, and I don't hang out with him as much. And then all of a sudden I become like a cop, and then later I hear about this assassin that I'm looking for.
Right.
And then it ends up being my friend Shawn, and I'm like, hey, and then I don't arrest him, and then we both become hitmen. Or I have
typical.
I have kill them all.
Movie.
I have kill them all written on my gun, and I'm killing
AR.
people in hotel rooms.
And it's like, okay, back with that. I see that he's crawling, but for one, I thought he was going to get shot as soon as he went down, and he told him to crawl. To me, and I understand the guy was drunk, and they were like, oh, well, they asked him if he was drunk, and he said no. Well, you don't believe a fucking drunk person. They're not going to tell you they're drunk because they don't want to get in any more trouble.
And you don't make a move. You just say lay down and spread out.
Right.
And
or put your hands behind your back, cross your feet.
Yeah.
And there was another officer there.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
You,
like the
you
other
cover him while the other
said,
officer fucking goes up. And like they said, under no time were they in danger. And I understand that they were called there because the guy was reportedly waving a gun around. He had an air pellet for his exterminating business. So I understand you're going to be on your thing, but you could see the way that guy was, unless he's a fucking Oscar-winning actor. You cannot act that fucking scared.
Well, speaking of that one, there's one, and then I'll try to get into this. There's a kid, this black guy, goes to Walmart with his girlfriend or his wife, whatever she was. He's on the phone with her while she's at the other floor, at the other aisle.
Right.
And he grabs an M16 toy, or maybe it was an air rifle also, and he's walking around the store with it. He's not even realizing how he looks because he's on the phone. And he's just walking around, and people are seeing him, and they're calling the police, like a couple people. Police come running in there, and people are oh, yeah, he's over there, he's over there. So the guy's still on the phone talking to her. All of a sudden, the cops come in, they go, get down, get down. So he's like, what? So he gets down. They end up shooting the guy and killing him, and then finding out that it was a fake gun. It's like...
Well, there was just the one, too, where I think it was in South Carolina, the story of the black guy that was... A bystander filmed it. He was running away from the cop, and the cop shot him in the back. And then the cop said that he was in fear for his life because he had his taser or whatever. The video shows the cop going up and fucking setting the taser next to him, or dropping the taser next to the guy.
Wow, yeah, that's why.
And the first trial was a mistrial.
Yeah,
or no, there was something to where they had to do it over again or something. They couldn't find him guilty.
Yeah.
How with that? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, mind control.
Yeah. Okay, so real quick. We'll talk about it later.
First of all, I had a and that's why I tell my guys, I go, no matter what time of the morning it is, you're walking around the hotels or the apartments, just imagine you're being watched by somebody.
Right.
So don't whip your dick out and start peeing in the bushes or whatever, because somebody's going to see you.
And anymore, it is more and more like that because of technology that you can. We had a guy come up to our door the other day or a couple weeks ago and was fucking pounding on the door. I was in my room playing games. Sandy's like, "There's somebody at the door." I'm like, "So?" Yeah. She's like, "He's fucking," and was like, he was pounding on the door.
Yeah.
And I fucking come out with my gun. Yeah. Sandy's already opening the door, and I'm like, "What are you fucking doing?" He's like, "Oh, it's this black kid," and he's
what time was it?
Like, it was still early enough. It was dark. I was like maybe 8 o'clock or something. Right. And he's like, I'm from the hood, blah, 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 on the East Coast, and I'm just trying to make it better for myself. And she's like, all right, well, you're in the hood. He's like, oh, no, this ain't the hood. And she's like, okay, whatever. And he's like, so do you think that if I worked twice as hard as you, that I could, even have half of what you have? And she's like, you shouldn't have to work twice as hard as I do. I'm nothing fucking special.
Yeah.
And he starts getting defensive, and she's like, yeah, okay, whatever, and fucking closes the door. She goes on, she's like, that's, he was being very aggressive with knocking on the door, and was like outside being like, hello, are you there? Hello. We go onto the Facebook page of the neighborhood, and somebody has fucking cameras at their house. Couldn't see it, but it shows the same guy fucking coming up and pounding on the door and being like, hello, is anyone there? Hello.
Wow.
I'm like, that's a good way to fucking get shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Why would you? And he was selling magazines. I'm like, why the fuck would you sell magazines like that?
I had the same, not to get off on too much of a tangent.
Yeah, we are, sorry.
At Moon Valley, where I was doing a patrol, and I got a call that there's a black guy with a backpack, and he's soliciting. And they don't want solicitors there. Mm-hmm. But by law, they can do that. Mm-hmm. They meaning the solicitors.
Right.
So I go, and the guy's talking to one of these guys who have, $500,000 home. Mm-hmm. The guy's sitting there with the door open. He's talking to the guy at the front door. And so then I pull up, and the guy gets done, and he comes over to me and the solicitor, and I'm like, hey, I got a report that you were, they don't want you selling. He goes, oh, no, I spoke to Officer so-and-so. They said it's okay if I do that. I said, I understand that, but this HOA doesn't want solicitors, so I'm going to have to ask you to leave. And he goes, well, let me just go over here to this one house, this last house. And he goes, I just got 2 more to sell. Like they were cleaning products. He's walking around with a squirt bottle on his hip. And he goes, let me just sell. And I go, no. I said, that's the president's kid's house. And he goes, Trump? And I go, no, the president of the HOA. It's his kid's house. And I go, and I'm just going to get another call from you going to every door, so you need to just leave. Well, if you want to buy these two, no, I don't. You need to leave.
Yeah, that's like fucking hardcore sales.
So
the only way I'm going to go is if I sell these two.
So he's like, okay. So he's walking. So I'm just patrolling around slowly, while I watch him walk. Then when he gets to the stop sign, he's waiting on a ride. So I'm like, and I see him on his phone. So I'm like, okay, he's waiting for a ride. So I watch him a little bit from afar. Then I come back over later. And I drive on by him, and I'm like, okay, he'll be gone any minute. This car flashes its lights at me to slow me down. So I pull over, and she's like, that guy's been here since 2 in the afternoon. And now it was 10 o'clock at night or whatever. And she's like, he's been here since 2. And I think he's just acting like he's on the phone. He's not. And I go, I've already talked to him. She said, I kind of thought you did. I said, I think he's on his way out. She's like, okay. So I turn around. I go back over there. I don't see the guy. So I'm like, good, he's gone. So I park over to watch one of the washes. All of a sudden, here comes a guy walking over to the car. Hey, what are you doing? Watching me or something? I said, no, I'm just doing my job of patrolling the area. And he's like, oh. And then he walked on and finally left the property. But it's like, for one, why are you these rich people answering their door? Not even rich people, but like you said, Sandy, just opening the door. No,
we have a security door, but still, it's what the, guys pounding on the door, being like, "Hello, hello, hello." I'm fucking coming with my gun.
You should have the security door with one of those X's on it, so you can angle your gun through it to shoot somebody. Oh, that's what I would do. That's what they did in the Old West.
Why don't you have it here?
That's what they did in the Old West. Because I just open the door, drag him in, shoot him, and then drag him in and say, "Hey, this guy."
Yeah, but then they'd be able to tell where you shot him and stuff like that. You'd want to. I don't know.
That's true.
Ask Danielle. She'll know.
That's true. Right, you're right. So you want to get into the JFK thing?
Huh? Yeah. What time?
You're like,
what do we have time? We're not gonna have time, are we?
I don't know. But I got 5 pages of notes.
Yeah, we'll do JFK the next time.
All right.
This turned into a MK Ultra only show.
Well, I'm very sorry.
No. I for one, it's
well
but okay. So for one, I'll do some research on JFK too, so I can have some points to be able to talk about with you on the next show and stuff like that.
Okay.
What I wanted to bring up, and we can close the show out with this.
Oh, okay.
Carl Panzram.
Oh yeah, you finally watched it.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I love this guy.
On last podcast on the left, they did Carl Panzram. I think it was 3-part, 2.
Yeah, it was a 3-part. It was a while ago.
Henry Zabrowski's voice of that guy is perfect.
Yeah.
And the guy's a really good writer. Like they said, fucking awesome. And just his story. And what is with, again, picking on the weak, you send these kids to the boarding schools.
Right.
And then they get raped.
Right.
Manson, this new guy that they're doing on last podcast.
Pee-wee,
something with a G.
Grabowski or Gerbowitz or something or whatever. Yeah.
But he got raped. Manson gets raped. That Carl Panzram
got fucking gang raped by
fucking on the hobo train.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
And then he fucking...
And then he would just be like...
He does it himself to another guy, the fucking boxcar, the brake checker guy or whatever on the train, because he fucking pulls the gun on him or whatever and fucking rapes him. And then there's 2 more fucking hobos, and he fucking points the gun to them and makes them fucking rape him.
Yeah.
As well. And I'm just like, oh my God.
And all that happened when he's 12. You look at a 12-year-old and you think, holy
And granted,
shit.
okay, now I'm thinking about this okay, so Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
Game of Thrones, the characters in Game of Thrones are 12, 13 years old.
Uh-huh.
When this thing starts.
Yeah.
And they're getting, and okay, so you think about it, when a girl first has her period and she can have kids, back in that time, you lived until you were 24. That was the oldest you would make it. Anyone, in their 40s was fucking ancient.
Yeah.
So in order to be able to propagate life, you had to start when you were 13.
Yeah.
Granted, girls now are becoming more mature earlier and stuff like that, with whatever's in the water and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, MK Ultra.
MK Ultra. But yeah, that, violence and stuff like that would be a much younger thing because that's just... You grew up.
You were born into it.
You were born into it, and you had to grow
with the
up.
Old West and
right. Talking about in the old West, like they were just like, yeah, that's what happened in, when they were settling California and stuff like that. These, you see these Western shows and stuff like that where, they're fucking just taking the young boys and just fucking brutally raping them.
Yeah.
There's so much male on male raping because
Say
there was
that
no
slowly.
female,
Get
there
me
was
all
no,
excited.
there was no women around. I think that, I'm listening to this. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, yeah, there wasn't women going out to settle. That's what we see in the movies. We see in the movies that it's women. I'm like, look back on Book of Eli.
Yeah.
Fucking what's her name's character in Book
Mila
of Eli?
Kunis.
She would have been fucking gang raped every way to fucking north. There would have been no way that they could have fucking protected her. Somebody would have fucking gotten to her and fucking.
Well, that guy tried, but he got an arrow to the face.
Well,
something.
right,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying though that she wouldn't have made it that long without fucking being.
Well, and I think it would be, although sometimes it wouldn't matter. Like that's why. Like, look at, I don't know, Muslims that they cover their whole body. So now you're not objectifying them. You're not looking at them in a sexual way because you can't see their curves. So all of a sudden, I'm going to be in the Old West. I'm going to be wearing a house coat.
But you're using your imagination then.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
About,
then
like,
you're still like, there's a pussy and boobs
Egypt,
under that. Or a dick. There's a dick under there. That's how
In Egypt, there was a story about like when they were doing all the stuff on Gaddafi and stuff like that, that one of the female journalists was there and she got caught up in these swarms of people and they were like fucking, the men were grabbing her and just like fucking putting their hands and fingers into every fucking possible place that they could fucking shove them into this poor woman.
Yeah.
And just doing this. And these are people that are, so religious.
Yeah. Well,
and then it's just like, but you're doing this and you're brutally, fucking doing this to a journalist who's just there doing her job and you're objective. You know what I mean? It's like, when it comes down to it, I honestly feel that so many of humans' problems comes from sexual drive.
Yeah.
And it's the sex drive of males.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I honestly don't believe that women, most of the time, like any people that you really talk to or read and stuff like that, as women get older, like they have sex with their husbands because they feel it's expected of them.
Yeah.
There's very few women who enjoy sex, not like for a man. It's like you fucking have sex dreams. I'm still in my 40s and I still have fucking sex dreams and stuff like that. But so many of that disturbing, fucked up shit comes from sex.
Yeah.
Look at these guys in MK Ultra.
Yeah.
Going to the brothels, getting picked up by prostitutes, even if they weren't paying them. The CIA was paying the prostitutes to just go pick up guys.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like guys that are here on business trips or whatever, and then they're fucking going and picking them up, and the guys are getting themselves into trouble for, and it's just like, oh yeah, okay,
yeah,
here's my dick.
Well, yeah, and it's that thing of just giving out government secrets and just whatever, and it all revolves around sex, a lot of that, but also the same thing with
Mario Batali,
the rape. Oh, Mario Batali raped somebody?
Mario Batali has stepped down from his restaurant empire.
And the show,
and
probably?
From the show. He is no longer a co-host on the show. It came out that a bunch of, in his 20-some years of being, the head chef, blah, 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 a number of different people that have worked for him have come out with allegations of sexual assault against him. And he came out and was like, I'm sorry that I conducted myself in this way. I'm stepping down immediately. Yeah. He's stepping down from the show, all this stuff. And it's like, I told Sandy, I hate that it's happened.
Yeah.
But I'm so happy that it is. Yeah. This is something that needed to happen for this to stop.
Right.
Otherwise, if this stuff would have been kept quiet, it would have continued to happen. Yeah. Now that guys are realizing, shit, I can't do this,
right?
Or it's going to come out.
Yeah.
We'll hopefully stop doing it and objectifying women. But it's just like, you think about it, you're like, Mario Batali with the fucking orange clogs?
Yeah.
What does he do? Like, I suppose, like, oh, you want a fucking job in my restaurant? Fucking suck my ass.
Yeah. Well, and then maybe I'll offend people, but
But I feel that.
I feel like I like
hi.
I like
Oh.
I like Kevin Spacey.
Oh, how? Oh.
I like the guy from the
Verbal Ken.
70s show that's on the ranch. What's that guy's name? Dan. Anyway, the guy from the
Ooh,
70s show that played the curly
plus
guy.
one intellect.
The curly guy. The curly-haired guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I like him.
Mhm.
I like Kevin Spacey.
What was the
know.
curly-haired guy? What did he do?
So he said that he sexually harassed somebody. So Netflix said the ranch is coming on December 15th, part 4. They said that'll be his last appearance on the ranch because he's been fired. Kevin Spacey's been fired from House of Cards because of his thing. And his thing was like 30 years ago against some boy being silly. And that's the other thing where like,
yeah, I think they said that there's been other stories that have came out since then, though.
But they should put these in categories like,
well, and like,
in a way.
I'm old now, so I listen to talk radio.
Right.
And they were talking on there. And like Bruce St. James said, shout out 92.3 FM if you guys want to hire me. Go right ahead.
Right,
Sean and Phillip.
Hello, and welcome to 92.3 today. In the
we
news.
can have our show on Sunday nights.
That's right, yeah.
It's kind of a funny podcast.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny radio show.
It's kind of a funny 92.3.
That's right.
KTAR. So, what was I going to say?
You were listening to talk radio.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about the sexual harassment. There should
Oh,
be
yeah.
categories.
So he was like, okay, if this stuff happened 30 years ago, like I could understand if you have accusers that are saying, yeah, this was last year that he was still doing it, then you just need to step down.
Yeah.
But if this is something, the time was different, not excusing it,
Right.
but who you were 20 years ago, who you were 10 years ago, who I was 2.5 years ago, 1,004 days ago, is very different than who I am today.
Yeah.
And so the female co-host person was like, then you come forward and be like, hey, I did these things. I was wrong, and I'm sorry that I offended you.
Yeah.
The person I am today would not do that, and I apologize for the person who I was, that did this, and I'm sorry that I made you feel that way, and ask for forgiveness. Be like, forgive me for what I did. I'm sorry, and then move on.
Yeah.
I think if some of these people, if Al Franken would have came out and been like, hey, I'm sorry that I did this, came about it a different way. But then it even sounds like with him that it wasn't just the one girl that they had pictures of. There was like multiple other people that came out, and he's saying that some of those were definitely not true.
Yeah.
But other ones were.
Yeah.
But
same thing with like Danielle just finished Mad Men. I'm never going to watch it. Never cared for it much. But she said it's kind of a dry show. But it takes place in the 60s in the ad men times.
Right, the ad
and
world.
they can drink while they're at work. They can grab a girl in the ass, a waitress, pinch her, do whatever. And nothing happens because that's the way of the world back then. So now you're
not
gonna,
saying it's all right.
Right, but now you're going to have...
I'd want to live there then.
Say,
Hell yeah.
something come up against Clint Eastwood for something he did in the 60s. And it's like, well, but... Yeah, it's wrong, like you said, but I don't want to lose all these great actors when...
I was just looking at the shirt.
No, I know. So the other day, I go... And sometimes maybe I get... First of all, for everybody, Sean knows, but everybody, I love movies, and I love TV, and I love pop culture stuff. So...
Oh, yeah. Ready Player One.
Oh, yeah. That trailer? Oh, yeah.
I read the book.
Oh, yeah.
I got the audio book.
I was gonna read it.
It is an 80s orgasm.
Oh,
like
yeah,
I don't
that's what I heard.
I don't know that they would be able to do like the royalties they would have to pay for everything that's in the book. I don't think they would be able to do.
Well, that's why I was surprised that they had Iron Giant. They had Deadpool,
I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna have to have more.
Deadpool in there.
They're gonna have to have more things that the studio already has the rights to and stuff
Back
like that
to
to
the
take
Future,
place.
they have that.
Right.
Like, that's a Spielberg property.
Okay.
And then Iron Giant might be DreamWorks, which was his.
Yeah, that wasn't in the movie at all, or in the book at all.
Oh well, it was on.
I saw it in there, but and they said that people are dissecting it. Like if they do
Mad Max car,
if they do a good job, and they bring up there was even the part on there where like the people, I'm like, I know that part from them. I'm like, that's cool that they put it in there.
Yeah.
Who they have playing the guy who dies, not what I expected at all.
Yeah.
But it fits. It fits. Now
I was,
seeing him, I can be like, oh, okay, now I can put a face with it. 'Cause I didn't know the face to put with it before.
I was reading it, and it kind of, because he did record it earlier before he turned 60, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of makes sense. But
and they say he's working on a second book. He's working on a sequel now.
Oh, interesting.
Or he's going to,
Yeah.
which is amazing if they do. I think it just.
But I love
if
that.
you'd like to, I have the audiobook on a thumb drive. If you want to listen to it, it's
please.
fucking.
Is it unabridged?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unabridged.
The thing with that, and then I'll jump back to my other stuff, was on that trailer, that first trailer where they start playing, like, I don't like Rush.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't care for them much. But they do that, so like that song kicks in, Monday Warrior today, Tom Sawyer, and they're all getting in the cars to go do this race, and you're like, all the robots, all the AI stuff, and you're like, oh my god, that's so cool. So that was awesome. But just like Guardians of the Galaxy, that trailer that they did with the music that was, where he's like, hey, that's my head, it's my Walkman.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it kicked into the other music instead, and then at the end, I had a feeling. Anyway, so every time I talk to Danielle and I'm like, I'll say something like, oh, did you know, and she's like, do you ever have anything that comes from your real life that you've learned or anything? And then, but the other day,
that's why I think, like, when I was listening to the book, I'm like, why you would love it even more than me.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in the 80s, but I think up to about my age, like, the book like really fits. But even for you, more so, because, like, Family Ties. He brings up Family Ties in there. And Jamie, my brother, fucking worshipped fucking Family Ties.
Oh, yeah.
But
Alex P.
all the
little
Breakfast Club references, all the what's that director's name?
John Hughes.
John Hughes. All the John Hughes stuff that's in this movie or in the book.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. I never got into, like, the 16 Candles side of it.
But you've seen Breakfast Club, right?
Breakfast Club I loved.
Oh, okay.
But 16 Candles, I never did. Pretty in Pink.
Those,
I've never watched it all the way through.
Yeah.
Same with 16 Candles. Never watched it all the way through.
Yeah. But something that's funny on that is then when I talked to her about, like, the other day they were talking about somebody killed somebody with a garrote on one of the, because we watch murder shows.
What's a garrote?
And she was like, what's a garrote, whatever, however you want to say it. She's like, what's that? And I go, oh, it's two sticks, and you put a wire around it, and choke somebody with it. And she's like, how do you know that?
From all your
from
fucking
movies,
from your
from fucking, Way of the Gun. I know how to, that was such a great, But just, and then this had like the Wild Bunch references.
Kiss Kiss
and
Bang
all that.
Bang. Who's that director and what's he working on now? I just saw something about that.
Shane Black's working on your movie, The New Predator, which he was in the first one.
Okay, yes, he was. That's right,
And then they asked him to do the rewrites. He wrote all the jokes in there. For all the jokes that he tells in the movie are the jokes that
he really wrote.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think, So, your mom's so big, she sits around the house. You know. I mean,
I told my wife I wanted a little pussy, and she said, so do I.
Yeah. I said, gee, you got a big pussy. Gee, you got a big pussy. She said, why are you repeating yourself? I said, I didn't. If you got rid of that, I do have it on Blu-ray, by the way. But he's working on a new one that hopefully he understands the genius of the first one. So hopefully he'll go back and do something like that. But he also did Nice Guys, which was great. And Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and Iron Man 3. But so my thing is, like, a lot of the stuff I go, I learned that word from a movie. Like,
there's you can learn a ton of stuff from that. Like the Game of Thrones stuff, like all these old terms of things. I was like, that's where the fuck that comes from. That makes so much more sense.
Well, it's the same thing with, I watch the old movies and she doesn't like them, but then she'll hear something. Or like we were watching some British show and it was the boot is the trunk.
Right.
And the bonnet is the roof.
Right.
And so she's like, what are they? And then I had to explain it to her. And she's like, how do you know? Well, I watch these old British shows or whatever. And same thing with the old-timey things when they're saying, whatever they're saying.
Right.
Anyway. And it's so it just struck me as funny when she's like, "Do you have anything?" I say, "I do," but those are just funny stories of my childhood that that I tell Joe, or that Joe and I remember. Or that
I remember one of the very first times that I fucking you always loved Glendale for some reason. It's obviously where you grew up, but you always like lived in the fucking shittiest fucking places in fucking Glendale.
Yeah.
Go like now I would have been I'd be like, well, I'm not going over there. Then I was like young and whatever. But you were living with your mom in a hotel.
No, she was
not a hotel, but it was an apartment.
It was well, on 59th and Bethany.
I don't know.
Well, there was one that I lived with there, and then she moved.
All
I
know is I came
move in.
No, I never went there separately when. I don't think you ever lived there by yourself.
Oh, then was I went where we always went shooting.
And it was like
that was where I lived. Okay.
White. It was like a white outside.
Right.
But there was like an entire wall of VHS.
Oh, yeah. That was...
And maybe you weren't living there at the time. Your VHS tapes were just at your mom's house or something?
No.
But I was like, oh, my...
No, it was... So that apartment complex where I lived, where when we would go shooting, you would meet me at 1074 or 174 was my apartment. Or anyway, I lived 404. I lived in that apartment, and then my mom had moved out, so I took that apartment. Before that, though, she lived somewhere else in that same apartment complex. And then, they had the wall of VHS because Ken had recorded everything.
Oh, I thought that was you.
He died of cancer in that apartment.
Okay.
Then I moved out of that apartment, and then I moved in, got my own apartment, which was a flipped, it was the other way around. But anyway. But yeah, that was the same apartment that we used to go have coffee at the place across the street and all that. But it was... But it's the same thing also, though, when you're younger, the older you get.
I've been tempted to go to see if that taco stand is still there. That fucking shitty fucking taco place that was across the street from your apartment.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. It wasn't a Del Taco.
No, God, it was like a fucking hole-in-the-wall fucking... I'm sure they probably did more meth business than anything now thinking about it. But
yeah. But no, I went there one night, so I was going to record. That's where my mom, I call it the... I was going to play the song Tusk or whatever to I Love You, and then she pushes me, So it was where she gets her purse stolen and runs after the guy around behind the Smitties, and she just pushes me, and I'm just by myself. So I went there one night to record. I said, I'm going to record a YouTube video of here's where this happened.
Right.
They're going to be little vignettes of my funny stories growing up. So I said, I'll do it. So I got my GoPro on the fucking roof on a tripod. I got my iPad, which I'm also recording on, so I can cut to 2 different angles, trying to light everything in a certain way. I got the Honda Civic parked right there on the corner of 59th Avenue in Bethany, a shitty neighborhood. There's some black guys over, not that it matters if they're black or white, but this is who was there at the time. Some black guys over by the Taco Bell just sitting there, and I'm like, this is a $250 camera. I got my iPad in my car, my computer in my car as well. I got the iPad's $800.
And I'm a 150-pound fucking
and my phone,
white guy.
And my phone, and at any time they could just walk over, thump me over the head, and take all my shit.
They wouldn't even have to thump you over the head. They could just say,
give me your
stuff.
Shit. Yeah.
And you'd be like,
I'd say, well, yeah, I know how to hold the flashlight.
Look how tall I am.
Yeah, that's right. So then I was just like, oh, fuck it. So I just, the videos weren't coming out that good, but I just felt kind of pressured. Like, I can't do this. Like, maybe I'll come during the day, but right now, or with somebody, like, no. But that's why on the story I told, on the one that you said you loved with Joe, was that I told Joe, I said, when this lady invited me, when the lady said, come to the housewarming, Danielle's like, oh, no, we're not going there. And I said, oh, no, she goes, no, I don't want to get shot. I'm not going in your bad old neighborhood, And I was like, no, it's okay. But I said, trust me.
I'm from there. It's okay.
I said, but I said, I do walk around there.
I'm one of the OGs.
I do walk around there, and I see why Chip was always afraid to come to my house until he got older, where he was like, oh, I know that it's not, you don't have to be afraid of everyone. But it was like nerve-wracking when I would watch movies like The Outside again. Movies to my real life. Here's how it incorporates. You watch Rumblefish or The Outsiders, Then you go to walk through my neighborhood, and you're like, am I going to get jumped by a gang that just wants to beat me up and just for shits and giggles? And I'm a white guy, and these are all Mexicans? What's going on? And then you get older, and you go, oh, everything's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
But maybe not, because they still may jump you and beat the shit out of you just for
well,
whatever
true.
reason.
And now times are different, and they could just shoot me instead of just jumping me and beating me
or
up.
you could shoot them.
But
I thought, like, the guy in that you were talking about where he's like, are you following me? You should have been like, did you hear about what happened to that guy in Florida?
yeah, I should have. Yeah, exactly. I'm Zimmerman.
Do you have any Skittles?
Yeah, yeah. You got some. What was it? Gatorade and Skittles.
Get moving.
I should have just.
I have a Keltec.
Yeah, exactly. I should have done something. But to tease this JFK thing, it might have to do with MK Ultra.
Mm-hmm.
Oswald, Ruby,
Yeah,
maybe.
Maybe. I think
So,
it all ties in together. CIA, bitches.
It could. That's right. So don't trust your government, but listen to our show.
Yes, please.
All right.
And speak out against net neutrality, because if we don't do something about net neutrality, you may have to pay to be able to have the bandwidth to listen to this show, which we don't want any of our listeners to have to go through that. So,
and I don't know why
keep the internet free, people.
This came up again. Like, I wish it would just be squashed and go away. Like, I remember before when it was
too much money in it, and it's funny because it plays into exactly Ready Player One.
Yeah,
Ready Player One. The Oasis is a free.
He gives them free internet.
Free.
Or whatever,
well, it's
free gameplay,
but
free
it's
online.
This universe, this world that everyone goes into is free. People can buy stuff in there, but there's a company that wants to win this Easter egg.
Yeah.
And the company wants to monetize it.
Oh,
and that's the whole thing.
Yeah, because then you have control, and then they want to.
Right, and they want to be able to monetize.
Yeah.
The thing, because they just so
I see.
It very much plays into the whole net neutrality thing, and they want to throttle your Netflix or make you be like, oh, if you go with Cox, and it's bullshit, because they're like, oh, it keeps them honest. No, it doesn't, because already the cable companies are the most dishonest pieces of shit there are, because if you're in an area, you don't have choice. You can't go with
you can't
Quest
go with Cox
because
you have to go to
or CenturyLink.
Yeah.
If you're in a certain area, that's the only choice you have, and that's exactly what they fucking know, and they are gonna fucking charge the shit out of you for stuff. So and rant.
Yeah. Today's show is brought to you by Ernest Klein's Ready Player One.
Not sponsored yet.
Oh, not sponsored. Okay, sorry, because then he'll be like MK Ultra. No. Anyway, whatever you just said made me think of something. I don't remember.
We're old.
Anyway.
Give us a break, people. We'll edit that out.
So anyway, that's fine. So thank you for listening. Until whenever, I'm Philip.
I'm Shawn.
Thank you for listening.
Can you really deep throw balloons? Do pregnant strippers make us swoon? What makes Joe masturbate? Is Sergio really straight? Go down. It's kind of a funny podcast. It ain't for the money podcast. It's kind of a funny podcast. So turn it up on a podcast. Digging through the garbage just to find the next topic.